So I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Currently, we live in a world of resource nationalism. Nations use minerals and other energy resources as geopolitical weapons. When one country monopolizes rare earth elements, they can weaken the global industry in economical and tech at will. This possibly leads to market mutability, trade wars, and environmental exploitation. In this House, we support the motion that proposes a vital shift in how the world manages its most crucial resources. And we on the proposition side strongly believe that the creation of an international materials agency, which is a global body tasked with supervising critical resources like oil, natural gas, and rare earth elements, is not only desirable by most sectors, but also urgently needed. Based on my setup, now I'm gonna move on to my substantive arguments. So firstly, we believe in favor of the IMA would prevent resource shortages and extreme price volatility. So this will saving economies from shocks. And second, the IMA would reduce trade conflicts and geopolitical tensions that leads to war. Let me develop the substantive of each one of these arguments. So, my first argument is about economic stability. Here is the mechanism I will explain. So, critical resources are not evenly distributed, especially when a handful of countries control most of the world's oil, natural gas, and other rare earth elements. In the current system, we can see that there is no reliable transparency, no one knows the true stockpiles, and no one has the authority to call for coordinated action when all the supplies is tightened. And we experience that this leads to price spikes. And these spikes cause factories to close, jobs to be lost, and inflation to the society. And then poor countries also suffer worst because they cannot afford to save and trade for scarce supplies. Due to these problems, the IMA will change this. First, through mandatory reporting and emergency stockpiles. I think the IMA would extend that to natural gases, rare earth elements, and the other critical minerals, and second, through a global alert system. Like when a shortage looms, the IMA would issue warnings and recommend demand-side measures like recycling campaigns or efficiency standards, and also an authorized release of strategic reserves. Therefore, the impact is clear. This policy will fewer sudden price spikes, more predictable supply chains, and protection for vulnerable economies. Manufacturers can make plans, and also governments can budget, and therefore, families do not face poverty overnight. And now moving back to my second argument, where I talked about peace and security. So here is the mechanism. When resources are scarce and ungoverned, these nations will fight over them. Not always with politics type of words, but also with trade wars, tariff export bans, and diplomatic blackmail. These conflicts spill over. Then it will undermine their trust, and they can break these rules of the World Trade Organization. And therefore, the IMA would be a neutral platform. It will establish a clear set of rules, such as no arbitrary export bans and no use of resource cut-offs for political coercion, and a transparent production and trade data. A dispute resolution mechanism similar to the World Trade Organizations, but specialized for materials. And because of those arguments, if a country violates the rules, for example, cutting off rare earth exports to punish a neighbor, the IMA could authorize coordinated countermeasures, including collective release of emergency stockpiles to offset the disruption and eventually trade sanctions. The impact is twofold. First, deterrence, like the knowledge that resource weaponization will be met with a unified response, reduces the incentive to do it. Second, trust. Importers are less likely to build expensive duplicates for stockpiles or resort to military options when they have a reliable global teamwork. Because of those arguments, we strongly believe the IMA would be a modest, focused pool leaving ownership and most extraction decisions in national hands, but also creating rules for fair play. And we see that the current system with secret stockpiles, opaque deals, and resource-backed authoritarianism is far more corrupt. An IMA with transparency requirements, audits, and multi-stakeholder oversight is an improvement. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have given you two reasons to prefer the world with the International Material Agency, or as known as IMA. And first, economic stability, preventing shortages and price volatility that impoverish millions. And second, peace. It's reducing trade conflicts and resource weaponization that leads to geopolitical crisis. The world without the IMA is a world of resource wars, price shocks, and unaccountable power for a few nations. The world with the IMA is not perfect, but it is a world where transparency, cooperation, and rules replace chaos and coercion.